So, who had sent me the message? The accident was so horrific that the car had completely burned and exploded. There was no chance that anything, especially a phone, could have survived. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. I looked at the screen and saw my friend's name once more. It was past midnight, and the exhaustion of a long day weighed heavily on my shoulders. I was holding my phone, waiting for sleep to take me. My eyes were half closed, scrolling through the screen, when suddenly, the sound of a notification jolted me. I looked at the screen. It was a message from an old friend I hadn't spoken to in a long time. Slightly surprised, I opened the message.
I need your help.
The message was short, vague. I hesitated for a moment. At this hour, and with such a message, I immediately asked what was going on, but the reply I was expecting never came. As I gripped the phone tightly in my hand, a strange sense of unease began to build inside me. While waiting for a response, my eyelids grew heavy. I tried to keep my eyes on the screen for a few more minutes, but the weight of exhaustion quickly pulled me under. I placed the phone on the nightstand beside me and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up the next morning, the first thing I did was check my phone, but my friend still hadn't replied. The screen was blank. A sense of unease crept over me. Normally, he wouldn't send such a message and then disappear. Had something happened? My mind raced with thoughts, and I couldn't bear it any longer. I decided to call him. I picked up the phone and dialed his number. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. The unease inside me grew stronger. Clearly, something was wrong. At that moment, I remembered the old days, how I used to know his mother well. We used to see each other often. Maybe she could tell me something, I thought, and immediately dialed her number. When the phone was answered, my friend's mother, sounding quite worn out, said,
"Hello."
Her voice was so tired and strained that I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "Is everything all right?" I asked, unable to stop my voice from trembling. There was a brief silence, and then her tearful voice cut through me.
"My son, he had an accident on the highway 4 days ago, and he died."
For a moment, it felt like everything stopped. Time, space, sounds, all vanished for an instant. I couldn't comprehend what had just happened. "I'm so sorry for your loss," I stammered, not knowing what else to say. When I hung up, my mind was spinning. My friend was dead. 4 days ago. As I struggled to process the news, one thought consumed me. Who had sent me that message last night? Still in shock, I rushed to my computer. I wasn't going to let this go. I started searching the internet frantically, looking through news sites. Within minutes, I found a few articles about the accident. As my eyes skimmed the lines, the uneasy feeling inside me grew. One headline caught my attention: "Highway Horror. Car burned and exploded." As I read the details, I couldn't believe my eyes. The accident was so horrific that the car had completely burned and exploded. There was no chance that anything, especially a phone, could have survived. This was impossible. That phone should have been destroyed. So, who had sent me the message? How? My mind was racing with questions, my chest tightening as I tried to grasp the reality of the situation. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. My heart pounded in my chest. I looked at the screen and saw my friend's name once more. In shock, I opened the message.
I saw something no one was supposed to see. That's why they staged the accident and took me. I'll send you messages when I can and tell you where I am. Don't contact the police. They're aware of everything. When the time is right, you need to get me out of here. Don't tell anyone what I've said.
When I read the message, my whole body went numb. I was trying to make sense of what was happening, but the terrifying thoughts in my head were dragging me deeper and deeper. Could my friend still be alive? Or was this just a game? With the phone in my hand, breathless, I stood frozen. I was stuck between courage and fear, not knowing what to do. For 2 days, I could barely sleep. At night, I woke up writhing in nightmares, haunted by the feeling that someone was always watching me. My thoughts kept circling around my friend's last message, the fact that he was calling me there, the things I'd have to risk. Everything was getting more and more complicated. On the evening of that second day, tired and restless, I ate dinner. Each bite felt like a stone going down my throat. My thoughts were scattered, and I was staring blankly at my plate when my phone buzzed again. My heart started racing. When I looked at the screen, it was him again, my friend. I opened the message. This time, it wasn't short. He had sent a location and written the following.
I'm here. The people who took me aren't who they seem. There's a dark force behind all this. I can't tell you what I've seen, but I know how they operate. Right now, they're not watching me, and I can only send messages at moments like this. Don't tell anyone or they'll find you too. Luckily, they're not aware of you yet. You're my only way out. They're not like people. They have no voices. They come from the shadows. I'll be waiting for you, but be careful.
As I read the message, my skin prickled. Could my friend really be there? Or who was sending these messages? Were they trying to lure me into a trap as well? I stared blankly at the message, phone in hand. I was drowning in questions and fears that kept spinning in my head. I had to go, but could I? After some time, I made a decision. I immediately picked up the phone and called the police. I told them about the messages I had been receiving. My voice was shaky and full of worry. The police officer, in a calm tone, said,
"You did the right thing. Most likely, the person sending these messages isn't your friend. It's the people who took him. They might be trying to draw you in."
His words brought me a small sense of relief, but there was still an uneasy feeling inside me. The officer continued,
"We'll head to the location, but since the messages were sent to you, you'll need to come with us."
I hesitated for a moment, but there was no other option. It was safer to go with the police than to go alone. I took a deep breath and said, "Okay, I'm coming." I felt a small sense of relief knowing that at least I wouldn't be alone. Shortly after, a police car pulled up in front of my house. As I got in, the officers went over the situation again, and we set off for the location where those eerie messages had been sent from. As we drove, one of the officers said,
"Don't worry, everything is under control. Your safety is our priority."
The other officer added,
"We encounter situations like this often. Just stay calm."
Their words comforted me, even if only for a short while. Armed and experienced officers were with me. I started to feel safe. However, as we continued driving, I noticed something strange. The road we were on didn't match the location from the message. The surroundings were becoming more isolated and unfamiliar. It didn't look like the road I'd seen in my research. The unease returned. I looked outside carefully and slowly said, "I think we might have taken a wrong turn," but there was no response from the officers. My heart began to race again. I spoke up once more, "Is there a problem? Did you get the route wrong?" But again, no reply. At that moment, I knew something was terribly wrong in the car. After a while, I couldn't believe my eyes. The officers' bodies began to darken strangely, as if they were turning into shadows. My eyes widened, and my breath caught in my throat. The dark entities my friend had mentioned in his messages were now right in front of me.